Wait, doesn't Power Rangers suck?
Why, yes, Joe. Power Rangers is a terrible show. Just awful. The worst ever. The writing is atrocious. It's complete campy, cringy schlock and a direct insult to every kid's intelligence. You'd have to be pretty brain damaged as an adult to enjoy watching it now.
Ooh. That's it! Look at this mess!
The show was definitely an embarrassing spectacle of stupid, but the original 16-bit games are actually very cool. Well, some of them anyway. Yeah, I'm talking about you fucking Mario Kart ripoff. The first game, released on the SNES in November 1994, is a classic beat 'em up. You pick your ranger and immediately start throwing hands and feet at all the putties that get in the way. Just like in the show, putties are the main enemy cannon fodder, but outside the traditional gray, there's a whole garden variety included that are more than just cheap palette swaps. There's putties with daggers, throwing knives, shield swords, spiked ball chains, paintball guns, and whatever the fuck this guy's supposed to be. Is he even a putty? If you were hoping to play through with a buddy like in Turtles in Time or Streets of Rage, you're SPO, single player only, which is certainly disappointing for a brawler and an IP literally built around teamwork. But as it stands, the first 5 levels are solo missions, each split into 3 parts. At the start, you fight through putties and obstacles as just another reckless teenager with attitude until you're introduced to that stage's end boss, one of the monsters ripped directly from the show. You're rewarded with a short cutscene of your ranger morphing into their iconic spandex color of choice. And then it's back to clobbering even more putties and evading even more obstacles until you reach the boss again, this time to take them down. The boss fights are as straightforward as the rest of the enemies in the game. Hit them until they die. Even though each monster has its own unique set of attacks and movement patterns, they're easily vanquished by inflicting a minimal amount of damage before activating your ranger's ultimate attack to finish them off. The last 2 levels of the game are strictly boss stages, where you get to play as the titular Megazord against a monster, followed by an evil Gundam of Rita's own. Both fights, if all too brief, feel like a nice reward for completing the previous stages, and put a nice little bow tie on the overall package to wrap things up. Ultimately, the game is an absolute blast to play despite its linearity and lack of difficulty. The levels have enough diversity and unique gimmicks to keep them from feeling too monotonous, and the music especially makes for a fantastic suite of SNES chiptunes to jam out to. Released the same month as the SNES title, the Genesis counterpart is a far more underwhelming experience. No beat-em-up action for Sega fans here. No, they had to settle for a Street Fighter II clone, and an extremely poor one at that. 6 Rangers, 3 monsters, and 6 Zords, 3 of the Zords being recycled monsters, across 6 stages is all you get with this package. Against superior games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, this game is the epitome of licensed retro shovelware hell. Fighting games live or die by their unique blending of aesthetically pleasing character and stage designs, paired with tight, responsive gameplay mechanics. You hit buttons and cool shit happens, but there isn't any cool shit in this game. All the characters feel the same outside their special moves, which good luck trying to get a buzz from landing any of those thanks to the generic bleeps and bloops that sound more like they were ripped from an 80s computer. The music sucks too if you haven't noticed. Since no sane person would want to torture a good friend with playing competitively, here's the limp-wristed arcade mode for punishing yourself. Fight a monster. Fight the monster again with a Zord. Fight the Green Ranger. Fight the Dragon Zord. Fight another monster. Fight that same monster again with a Zord. Fight Goldar. Fight Goldar with a Zord, and finally fight Rita's Gundam on the moon. Congratulations, we just scammed your parents out of their hard-earned cash, you schmucks. Goddamn, did Jason just kill Tommy?
Speaking of scams, are you going to talk about the Sega CD game, Joe?
That's not a game, it's a glorified MPEG-1 highlight reel of the show.
But it's on the Sega CD! That's my console, Joe!
If I wanted to play a QTE game, I'd play Space Channel 5.
Good point, Joe. I'd rather play with Ulala, too.
Stay with me. In the dead of night, I'm banging on your door.
Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
The next game in the series released on June 1995 for the SNES. Despite the misleading movie tie-in marketing, this is a direct sequel to the original Nintendo game. As such, it naturally builds off that game's foundation, while still being willing to risk deviating from its predecessor with several drastic changes to the proven formula. Like the previous game, you start out by... Wait, what happened to David Yost? You start out by selecting your ranger, which right off the bat includes the new ability to have a second player join in. Right from the start, you're introduced to several of the new gameplay tweaks and additions. Various sections in levels now contain separate foreground and background tracks that can be hopped between at will. It's a nice touch that not only helps emphasize the levels being designed with a second player in mind, but also varies what enemies and obstacles challenge you depending on your chosen path. If you think that's enough to keep you on your toes, the far less generous health system here compared to the previous entries is downright brutal. 5 hits cost a life. Running out of lives eats a continue. Run out of those and it's
Game over, man. It's game over.
The game demands precise timing and strict level memorization in order to not blow through your limited stock quicker than DSP's income on WWE champions. Health pickups are extremely sparse and only restore a single point. The key to replenishing fully is morphing, which has been reinvented from scratch. No longer automatic, your ranger must collect lightning bolts dropped by defeated enemies to fill a power meter. Once accomplished, the player can switch to their spandex mode at any time prior to a boss fight. In terms of game balance, leaving morphing up to the player creates a dynamic risk-reward system. Morph immediately to deal increased damage, or keep it in reserve until your Angel Grove favorite is about to lose a Mario. And you will definitely need all your Marios if you hope to beat all 7 levels and bosses in the game. From the new chosen set of rubber-suited monsters from the show, to Ivan Ooze and Mother Brain, each boss character is expertly crafted to test your 2D brawler skills to the max. If the previous game was a cakewalk, then this one is a trial by fire. But with greater challenge comes greater satisfaction. And beating this game certainly nets you certified Get Good cred on the Retro Gamer scorecard.
You obviously don't know who you're dealing with, Mr. Raisinhead.
Really?
Yeah, we're the Power Rangers.
Whoa, where's my autograph book?
Released shortly after the SNES version, this time the Genesis counterpart strives for parity with its console rival. Instead of a crappy Street Fighter clone, we get a far more competent and welcomed Streets of Rage clone, which, unlike the SNES, isn't a totally unrelated game that simply tacks Ivan Ooze on at the end as the final boss.
What is a man?
After a brief intro setting up the story from the movie, your ranger is immediately dropped into action against an onslaught of Ivan's morphological goons. Goons that become very annoying very quickly since they melt into a puddle every few hits, forcing you to wait until they respawn to finish them off. What is this, Final Fantasy? After Ivan puts you in your place at the end of the level, you're treated to a huge exposition dump that could rival a modern PlayStation blockbuster, but major kudos to the devs for sweeping this stinker of a movie under the rug. If you don't believe me, just ask the VR troopers.
You know, guys, do you think we'll ever get to go to Australia like the Power Rangers?
Shit, not after the dump they took at the box office.
Yeah, we can flush our movie down the toilet.
Stage 2. Fight more purple goo guys until you get to fight Ivan's big stupid bug robot in the Ninja Zord. The latter would be cool if the controls didn't give away that it's a clunky reskin of the first Genesis game's Zords, but with even worse hit detection thanks to being transplanted into a brawler's open horizontal space. At least all there is to do now is beat Ivan to put us out of our misery, right?
It's false.
In a surprising twist, the next 3 levels rewind the clock, showing how Rocky, Aisha, and Nero joined the team after Zordon fired their original counterparts for attending a peace conference. Minus 2 more tacked on Zord fights, these levels are far more palatable thanks to the return of traditional putties. No more goo guys slowing down your Ranger's fisticuffs. But the fun ends with the 5th and final stage as we return to the present to fight Ivan Ooze in bug mecha form. He's ridiculously cheap, so the only option is channeling your inner flowchart Ken and spamming the fuck out of the Ninja Zord's hurricane kicks until he's finally defeated. Overall, this game feels like it was popped into its cart just a little too early. It lacks the polished mechanics and fine-tuned level design of its superior SNES siblings, but the one quality worth praise is its strong dedication to Power Rangers itself. As great as they are, the SNES games feel like the PR license was simply the cherry on top, an already delicious sundae. Optional but not integral to the core DNA of the experience. This is where the Genesis game triumphs, as it's hard to imagine how the two elements could be separated from each other. Nothing demonstrates the devs' determination to please fans more than the absolute best feature of the game, the soundtrack. All of Ron Wasserman's iconic themes from the show are here and totally rock with the Genesis's crunchy synth goodness that we all know and love.
I guess I was wrong about it being too quiet around here. Alright, there he is! Alright, Saba, let's start all over. Wait, Tiger Zord! Tiger Mode! Battle ready now!
On second thought, just stick with the SNES games and listen to the soundtrack on YouTube.
Do you want us to take another whack at it?
How about taking another quack at it?
The final Mighty Morphin game, released on the SNES, was yet another Street Fighter II clone because, why not? The Turtles did it too. All I really want to know is what the heck is going on with Zordon? Is he having a seizure in the background while the Thunder Zord and Ninja Zord are beating the shit out of each other? What on earth is he jabbering about? Someone tell me! Get the fuck out of here, Amy Jo. There's only one Pink Ranger.
Stay with me.